Здравствуйте! This video is all about reading Russian and the right pronunciation. It has the whole Russian alphabet in it. Of course, I'm gonna show you the most crucial reading rules, and I'm gonna give you tips and tricks on how to pronounce stuff right. Throughout this whole video, we're gonna read a lot of Russian words together. Now, this video has a smooth learning curve. I split everything into 4 main parts, and we're gonna start with the easiest stuff possible. I would like to start with this sequence of letters because it's almost identical to the one that we have in the English alphabet. In English we've got КЛМНОПРСТ. In Russian it's КЛМНОПРСТ. Now what's different is that we don't have the letter Q. We also don't have the letter C in Russian. So the words like crown, king and queen, they all start with the same letter, and it's K. Корона, король, королева. We're gonna get to reading just a bit later, stick with me. So, the first thing you want to remember is that all the consonant letters are named after the sound that they represent, plus this little e at the end. Let me read them for you. K, le, me, ne, o, pe, re, se, te. It's always e. Some of these letters, they sound exactly how you expect them to sound. So let's read a few words with them. Kot, tok, kom. Kot, tok, kom. In small words like these, o always sounds the same. It's always o. Kot, tok, kom. By the way, o is the most frequently used letter in the Russian language. How about that? Now, the other ones, they might look different, but they sound pretty familiar. Sok, nos, kol, pol. Sok, nos, kol, pol. The main purpose of this video is not to make you remember as many words as possible, so I want you to focus only on reading. Slot, plot, slon, tron. Slot, plot, slon, tron. Pretty easy. All you've got to do is to remember what they look like. The only letter that stands out is, of course, re. Let me show you how to produce this sound. Put your tongue like this, so the tip of your tongue touches this little bump over here. Now, you have to relax the tip of your tongue and blow air out. R. R. It has to bounce itself. You cannot do it manually. There's no way you can do it manually. R. 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 Now, the perfect amount of bounces that your tongue has to make is exactly 1. So usually what happens when you read words with this letter is your tongue goes up, it touches this bump, and goes back down. Here are some words for you to practice on. Rot, rot, krot, krot, korm, korm, tort, tort. Rot, krot, korm, tort. It's just a tiny bounce. Don't try to make it long. It's just r. Rot, krot, korm, tort. Now the closest sound that I found in English is the one in better. This double T, it sounds like D. Basically, your tongue does the same thing. It bounces up and down. Try to extract this sound and just go from there. Better, header. It sounds almost identical to the Russian re. Another thing to mention is that when you read Russian, you have to forget all the silly English reading rules. Like if you have ke and ne together, you have to read ke, like in kнопка or kniga. Another thing worth mentioning is that T-glottalization, it doesn't work the same way in both languages. It's when you skip your T's entirely. It happens in English quite often, but it never happens in Russian if the T is somewhere in the middle of a word, like in Putin. Putin, you always pronounce your T's when they are in the middle of a word. The only exception that I can think of is when this T is stuck between se and ne. It's hard to read it when it's stuck like this, so we just don't. Like in лестница, лестница, or in грустно, грустно. But when it's surrounded by vowels, you always read it. Sometimes we don't pronounce it when it's right at the end, just like in English, right? Because we're also lazy like that. Alright, that's the end of the first part. Now I'm gonna read you some words. If you wanna practice by yourself, you can just pause the video, or you can just do it with me. Kom, kot, rot, krot, korm, tort, tors, sok, sort, tron, nos, snos, monster, pot, port, sport, kol, lom, pol, slot, slon. This one is all about vowels. We've got 10 of them, but only half of them are unique. And what I mean by that is the last 5 are just modified versions of the first 5. So the first one is e. It's not very common to see it, we barely use it, but you're already familiar with this sound. That's what we have at the end of every consonant, right? K, le, me, it's e. Nothing to talk about, really. The next one is O, but it sounds like O only half of the time. The other half of the time it sounds like A, like this one. We'll get back to it in a moment. Now this one is A. It always sounds the same. Canada, Canada. Or like in ananas, ananas. Or in macaca, macaca. Always the same, nothing to talk about. The real question is, when does O sound like A? It's a simple rule. When O is not stressed, it is pronounced like A. For example, молоко, молоко. The last O is stressed. It means that it's pronounced loud and clear, unlike all the other syllables. All the other ones, I guess they get muffled. That's why they're gonna be pronounced as A. It happens all the time, and not only with O, also with other vowels. We don't put much emphasis on them, let's put it this way. Like in corona. Corona. When there is only one syllable, you don't have any options to where you put your stress on. That's why in short words like this one, it sounds like O. Rot, kot, pot, but when it's not stressed, it becomes A. Just like in золото. Золото. Let's take a simple sentence. Это мой дом. Although это is pretty short, it has 2 syllables, and the stressing goes on the first one. Это мой дом. Это мой дом. The only exception to this rule is about prepositions. Even though it's one syllable, it's gonna be muffled. It happens because we treat them as if they were a part of the next word. Simple as that. Like in от дома. От дома. Or in о доме. О доме. Okay, the next 2 letters are not affected by this rule. They don't change the way they sound because of that. It's U and I. Like in Tunis, Tunis, or in sutki, sutki, minus, minus. Whenever we borrow words, the letter I becomes I, usually, and U becomes U. So minus sounds like minus. Here's some more words with them. Stimul, stimul, кумир, кумир, турник, турник, спутник, спутник, приступ, приступ. Alright, let's just stop right here, read some words and move on to the next 5. Танк, кран, транс, катана, риск, сила, мистика, лимон, космос, мотор, трактор, пуск, укус, куст, трус, мусор, тупик, этанол, этил, искра, курс. Let's continue. Before we can get to the other 5 vowels, we have to know about this letter, I краткое. It translates as short I. It is what it says it is. It's a short version of I. It's not a vowel. It sounds like Y in yoga. Here's some more words with it. Йота, йота. Тайна, тайна. Рой, рой. So if we take this sound, Y, and put it next to A, we'll get Ya, ya. And that's how other vowels are made. But you have to make this Y sound short. Ya, 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 ya. So, Y plus E is Ye. Y plus O is Yo. Y plus A is Ya. Y plus U is You. And the only exception to that is Ü. This beautiful sound we're gonna cover in the last part, because I don't wanna overwhelm you with information right now. Let's just stick to these ones at the moment. Let's start with yeah. In the words that we shared together, the ones that we stole from you, it sounds like Test, stress, tennis. It sounds just like in English, but it's not always the case. Most of the time when it's stressed, it sounds like yeah, like in mail, тело, text. But when it's not stressed, it sounds like и. Тепло, тепло, темно, темно, секрет, секрет. Now let's get to yo. The good thing about yo is that it's always stressed. It always sounds the same, like in актер, ликер, полет. Now the bad thing about this letter is that we tend to forget to put those little dots over it. Nevertheless, it's pronounced as yo. So the question is, how do you tell ye from yo if they look exactly the same? The short answer is, you just cannot do it. You just learn the words and remember when it's ye and when it's yo. My best advice for you is just to think of this letter as if it was just another way of reading ye. I'm sorry, but there's no way around it. Personally, I use it all the time, but most people use ye instead of yo. So if we take these two words, все and всё, they're gonna look exactly the same. Все, всё. So my guess is that in the future we're gonna get rid of this letter and we'll start teaching kids that ye is sometimes pronounced as yo in certain words. That's my wild guess. Alright, let's get to ya. Ya sounds like itself if it's stressed and sometimes even if it's not stressed. Like in миля, копия, компания, компания. Компания. Although sometimes when it's not stressed, it sounds like и. Like in мясник, мясник, or in пятно, пятно. But how can we be sure that there's an ya in there? Not ye, because it also can sound like i, or not even i itself. There's a simple way to check your spelling. All you've got to do is to find a word that is close to it, that has the same root, and is stressed in the syllable that you need. Like пятна. Пятна. We can clearly hear that there's an ya in there. That means that there's also ya in пятно. That's the way to check it. Alright, let's finally move to you. You doesn't change the way it sounds, it's always you. Like in юмор, юмор, костюм, костюм, or in Юпитер, Юпитер. I think that we're done. Let's read some words and move on to the next part. Яма, юла, ёлка, ярко, песня, пенсия, талия, река, песок, проект, пленка, моллюск, пуля, уют, ясли, если, мюсли, плеск, треск, океан, котел. Alright, little bit about this letter, F. They say that every word that starts with this letter is basically stolen from another language. Here's some words for you with this one. Формула, фанатик, физика. Absolutely nothing special, it's the same as F. Let's move to something more interesting. You know how in English sometimes the letter D sounds like T, like in checked, checked, right? In Russian it happens at 100% rate. So D, which is the same thing as D, sounds like T when it's right at the end. Дом, дома, дрон. Код, метод, распад. That's right, that makes код sound like кот. It's kind of hard for us to voice those letters, so that's why we just don't do it. Now this happens not only with D, also with other consonants like V. When it's right at the end, it sounds like F. Вой, вирус, вред, ров, покров, нерв. They lose their voicing just like that. B becomes P. Банан, бред, бритва, краб, ромб, тромб. That's right, in this case, B sounds like P. And Z becomes S. Роза, замок, замок, низ, приз, без. And G sounds like K. Гора, герой, горб. Друг, враг, вокруг. Alright, now we know that B sometimes sounds like P, V like F, G like K, D like T, and Z like S. This happens not only when they are right at the end, it also happens when they are close to another voiceless consonant, like in this word, vodka, vodka. Can you hear that? D sounds like T because there's K next to it. It's hard to voice it because of that. Лодка, vodka, будка. The same thing happens to any of these letters. Do you remember how I read все? Все. V is hard to voice because of this S next to it. That's why it sounds like F. Все. So the general rule is whenever it's hard to voice these letters, you just don't do it. Remember what I said about prepositions? It's applicable to them. So let's say in в пятницу, V is gonna sound like F. Because this word is so tiny and it's so close to another word, that's why we treat them as one. В пятницу, не хочу, в Канаде. These tiny words don't get any stressing whatsoever. That's why не sounds like ни and до sounds like да, like in до встречи. This V also sounds like F, simply because it stands next to С. До встречи, до встречи. Во мне не ври, не ври. Russian consonants lose their voicing quite often, but there's one instance when the opposite happens. It's when S stands next to D. In this case, S gains voicing and sounds like Z, like in the word сделка, сделка. Госдолг, сдал. You know the deal, right? I'm gonna read you some words and we'll move on to the next part. Дорога, дерево, лед, мед, назад, поезд, паровоз, ваза, возит, воз, плов, боров, бремя, барабан, дуб, клуб, гриб, газ, глаз, лук, флаг. Alright, it's time to cover what's left. We'll start with H. Basically, it's the same as H, but with a gentle touch of a dying noise to it. H, 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 H. Like in хор, хор, храм, храм, hum, hum. It's a pretty harsh sound, but that's what it is. Okay, since we've got this letter covered, I want to go back just a tiny bit and talk about G once more. It usually sounds like G in get. When it's hard to voice it, it sounds like K, like in снег. But sometimes it does sound like V or H. Let me show you some words when that happens. Бог, or in мягкий. For some reason, G sounds like H. Quite often in the words that have this go at the end or in the middle, G sounds like V. Синего, красного, зеленого. It is quite unique to Russian because no other letter does this. The only thing we can do is just to remember those words. Let's move on. Alright, we ain't got no letter X. That's why we spell text like this. But you ain't got no letter Ch. Ch is basically CH in chess. It's this combination. Like in час, мяч, мяч. The next one is Ц. Now it's just a combination of T and S. Ц, like in центр, оценка, опция. The thing about this one is that whenever Е stands next to this letter, it's gonna sound like Э, оценка. Another thing I want to mention is that when we borrow words that start with C, it becomes Ц. Центр, цербер, циклон. We also like to borrow words that end with Tion. It becomes ция, like опция, нация, конституция. We've got a bunch of them. So yeah, let's continue. Alright, now let's get to ше and ще. Basically, it's the same sound, but in different tones. Sh, sh, sh. Sh, sh, sh. This sh is the same thing as sh in should. Sh is the same sound but in a lower tone. Sh, 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 sh. Let's read some words with them. Sh, sh, shock, shock. Sh, sh, щелчок, щелчок. Sh, sh, шаг, шаг. Sh, sh, щетка, щетка. Шум, щука, шум, щука. I hope you get the idea. Alright, now we've got she covered. Now we can get back to che just for a moment. Che usually sounds like che, but in a few popular words it sounds like she for some reason. Like in что or ничто. It only happens in a few words, but since they're pretty popular, I thought I should let you know that. Что, ничто. Just like she. Alright, the next one is же. Же like in regime, maybe slightly lower. Же. Жара, жара. Режим, режим. Жакет, жакет. But when it's hard to voice it, it sounds like she. Ложка, ложка. Тираж, тираж. Нож, нож. Just like that. Now we've got an easy way to explain how to make this sound. Just like I said before, it's just a modified version of e. Take a look at these two syllables, she and she. If you put e next to she, this she sound is gonna drag it down in tone. So that's why it sounds like exactly like E always sounds the same, but this happens with je, she, and tse. Try to mimic this sound first. Ji, she. Ji, she. If you try to pronounce E just like a regular E, your she is gonna end up sounding like she. We don't want to do that. Try to get into a lower tone. Instead of she, try to say she. Ji, she. Now you just put this sound next to other consonants and you will get like ты, мы, вы. Ты, мы, вы. Let's compare E to Ти, ми, ви, ты, мы, вы. Ти, ты, ми, мы, ви, вы. We use it all the time. I hope you can get it right. E only sounds like with these letters. Ji and she are always spelled with E. There's a rule for that. Ji, she, пиши с буквой E. Now we've got only two letters left. It's the hard sign and the soft sign. Твердый знак, мягкий знак. The hard sign is pretty easy to understand. We use it to break syllables apart. So this sounds like се, but if we put the hard sign in, it's gonna sound like сье. Се, сье. Like two separate letters. We don't use it that often, but if you see this sign, that means that you have a brief stop in there. Сье. Listen closely now. Сесть, сесть, съесть, съесть, сесть, съесть. Поделить, поделить, подъехать, подъехать. It's just a small pause. Де, дье, де, дье. Alright, we can finally get to the soft sign. Мягкий знак. They say that it doesn't have any sound attached to it, but I don't agree with that. It actually sounds like E when you whisper it. Just try it out. T, 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 T. Let's just try to whisper this E together. T, T, T. Бить, мыть, варить. We've got this one at the end of almost every verb. Быть, курить, мять, т, т, т. Let's practice with other consonants. М, м, с, с, д, д, в, в. Just like that. Полка, полька. Мол, моль. Дар, царь. We know that consonant letters lose their voicing when they are right at the end. It also happens even if they have this soft sign with them. Like in лошадь, лошадь. Д sounds like Т, лошадь. Бровь, бровь. В sounds like Ф. Or like in ложь, ложь. Ж sounds like Ш. So there's a group of letters, we call them шипящие. It's че, she, she, же. It doesn't really matter if you put this soft sign next to them. It will not change absolutely anything. They're gonna sound the same. Нож, ложь. Нож, ложь. Мяч, дочь. Мяч, дочь. Absolutely nothing changes. It's time for the ultimate challenge. I know exactly what you're thinking about. I'm not gonna blame you if you wanna quit right now, but I'm gonna read you these words anyway. Let's go. Пыль, мышь, чаще, цирк, царь, хочу, ёжик, жучок, чужак, жизнь, шить, тысяча, шмель, жужжать, шагать, съехал, щупать, шуточка, чахлый, пацаны, хорошо. Alright, it's time for some bonus. It's just some information that might be useful for you. I really wanted to talk about the hard sign and the soft sign. There's actually no word that can start with these letters. So basically there's no point of having the uppercase versions of them, since the hard sign, твердый знак, can only be found stuck in between a consonant and a vowel. The soft sign, мягкий знак, can only be found after a consonant. That's how we use them. And some people can actually disagree with me that the soft sign is close to E, but some words have two ways of spelling, and we use these letters interchangeably, like in невезение, невезение. Most of the time we say или, but you can also find иль. Или, иль. So yeah, trust me on this one. Another thing I wanted to say is that you don't have to put a lot of effort on pronouncing и краткое if it follows и or ы, since it's almost the same sound. Красный, красный, синий, синий. This combination sounds like a stretched и. Синий, синий. The same happens with any doubled consonant. You just kind of stretch it out. Кирпичный, кирпичный, деревянный, деревянный. Another thing that happens often is when sounds from different words overlap with each other. So instead of saying с сахаром, we just say сахаром, сахаром. This is gonna sound like a long се. Сахаром. Под домом. Под домом. When it comes to vowels, we just read them one by one. These O's are not stressed. They're gonna sound like a. Самооборона. Самооборона. Russian is often called a phonetic language, meaning that it's very easy to read, and I agree with that. This video has like 90% of the stuff that you need to know if you want to read Russian well. All rules have exceptions, of course. It's something that you will learn by yourself. Another important thing is that there are two ways of reading the Russian alphabet. The one that I use in this video is used by 99% of Russians. The other 1% is the Russian teachers. They use a slightly different version of it, the grammatically correct version. We only use it for acronyms, pretty much. Now I'm gonna read you the alphabet in two different ways. And we're done. A, B, V, G, D, Е, Ё, Ж, З, И и краткое, К, Л, М, Н, О, П, Р, С, Т, У, Ф, Х, Ц, Ч, Ш, Щ, твердый знак, И, мягкий знак, Ю, Я. Alright, the second one. А, Б, В, Г, Д, Е, Ё, Ж, З, И и краткое, К, Л, М, Н, О, П, Р, С, Т, У, Ф, Х, Ц, Ч, Ш, Щ, твердый знак, И, мягкий знак, Ю, Я. That's it. До свидания.